All right, Lazy Leaguers, this is going to be an odd one, but I mean, I'm only in year 2 of actually recording this, so I don't really know if I'm creating any new trends. It's just doing it slightly differently. I looked back at the first video last year, and I did a recap plus things to come, and then tried to cover the first month all in one video, and it was 40 minutes long. I mean, you all like me enough to be in this pool, but not like enough to watch me for 40 minutes. So I'm trying something slightly new. Now, a month ago, we drafted, and I thought I was being super keen because I had a week off. I did do a recap, and then I did some stuff I was excited about for the start of the season. Only one of the two of those is going to live on. There's no reason for you to actually have to go through what I thought the season would be now that we're kind of a chunk of it through already. November was a pretty busy schedule. A lot of the NBA Cup games have actually happened, and as of recording, and hopefully as of the time you see it, we're actually down to the knockout stages. So I'm going to keep just my recap art. So you'll notice the hair might be slightly different. Same with the t-shirt, but I'm going to keep it as is. I'm both right and wrong in some cases. Obviously, never wrong, only early, except for the fact that I don't think I saw half my team getting hurt pretty much right away. So that's kind of a bummer when I had to listen to that. But anyway, you're going to get my recap. Then I'm going to cut this video off, put it out there in the world, and then I'm almost immediately record and then hopefully edit my post-November where I do some of the updates. So hopefully that works for you. If not, put it on 1.5 and just humor me. Either way, here is to remind you what I thought of our picks about a month ago. I was going to have this on a split screen, but I thought this is just fine. We know where the picks are, and I'm going to try, like I said, to minimize how much I really go into it because, I mean, who cares about my opinion? It's not like I've won this every single year, have I? Chainer, you did get our first choice. Second year in a row you got it, and this time you went with player instead of team. We'll talk about that because Rennie obviously raised a very interesting perspective when he was kind of speaking about his experience this year in the teams. I think, I've done the first player as well. I think there's always like that, if there's someone that you want this year, it's amazing. Sometimes there is that talent bump anytime you're on the swing here. So obviously, and I think all of our first picks I'm going to get to that are very, very us in a lot of ways. You took the Canadian kid, SGA, and I think a lot of people probably would have made the same decision in your spot. A lot of people now are talking about him as a potential MVP, potential for scoring, potential for steals, potential. I mean, I don't think they got him an assist, but there's a lot of categories that he is at least in the top 5 predicted in. He's the kind of player that's going to get a player of the month or two. And if OKC does as well as they're supposed to, he obviously had the NBA all teams in his register, being one of the top 15 players, whether that's first, second, or third team this year. He's in the running, and obviously last year did quite well. OKC is also that kind of team that could get themselves into the high end of the midseason tournament, and you could get some points there. So SGA was a great one. I did like your balance. I think if I had to kind of go on it, because I'm not going to go each pick as much as I did your first one, but you kind of went for like team forgiveness. Ja Morant, I think great spot to take him in, but obviously he's got a lot to prove this year. Zion, that's what we've said every single time ever. Triple J, obviously with Ja Morant, if you're going big on the Grizz, then that's a team you want to dive into. Mobley is someone who's getting, most improved potential buzz. OG, when he's healthy, is fantastic, and he's getting you the defensive points. But obviously I jumped over your guy, team forgiveness Chainer. You went back to Embiid after he burnt you pretty bad last year. Could have gotten you an MVP, could have gotten you a scoring title, but he didn't quite play, and he has announced that he's not doing back-to-backs. But that could, in theory, save him, and I don't know how many back-to-backs they actually have. If he only doesn't play back-to-backs, I think he would still be eligible, but if he gets hurt at all. So let's see. Again, your heart is big, Chainer. You definitely trust. On to your team points. Again, diving in deep, I think if you were a team on your register, you didn't mind going all in. So 76ers, you're obviously going strong. Dallas could be an awesome pick if they return to the finals. I did think, you going pretty West heavy, except for your first and last picks was pretty telling. And to be honest with you, I was definitely hoping that the Kings would fall. They're a team I think I've got them down to get points to certainly finish in the play-in, if not potentially the top 6. I haven't play-in, but I know some other people disagree. And actually, I'm pretty jealous of your last pick. I was hoping people would be down on the Pistons. Like I said, I think the Pistons could be last place, certainly. But there's a world that exists that they actually sneak in and get that 10 spot and get you some points. And if you can get points from multiple tiers here, that's pretty good. I'd say the big warning light to me, aside from obviously all of our last round picks are going to be warnings, but the Jazz, they could be sellers this year from what I hear. And the West is so strong that the Jazz could very well fight for one of those play-in spots or pack it in early and try and make a run for Cooper Flag. And the NBA does like to make sure that its potential stars end up in markets that love them. Utah and Flag, I don't know. Personality-wise, they don't mesh, but there's a lot of aesthetics that I think Utah would support there. How about that? So a well-balanced team, as always, Chainer, with our first pick. Let's see if we can be the first one to take this pool down after getting their first choice. I said each of our first picks were very indicative of us, so of course Horst is going to take the French guy. I know, Horst, you're not French, it's Swiss French, still close enough. I mean, to North Americans, you know that's like Europe. But you got Wemby, huge jump up from last year. I had him last year, and he got him a little bit later, obviously. Had Halliburton as well, so, you know, you do have and Trae Young. You're taking a lot of my sloppy seconds, but I don't think they're going to be super sloppy this year. In fact, I think they'll be quite strong. I have had Curry in the past as well, so really you're just drafting off me. But you did kind of have that old-young balance. Obviously, Curry, Harden, I think a lot of us, maybe you don't like watching him play basketball, but you know he's going to be on a team that he is going to play the whole time, and not all of his teammates can stay the same, so he's definitely going to be racking things up. He did make a comment after Luka and the Mavericks went so far, essentially saying, you see, kind of heliocentric offenses where someone has the ball a lot can work. And I think he got some interesting talent. I mean, Şengün right now technically is the leading rebounder, I think, because he had like 1 or 2 games where he had near 20. Cade is someone I was on my radar as well, because I already mentioned in Detroit, and I think everyone in Canada would be thrilled if your Scotty Barnes comes through. You also did avoid the rookie run near the end, so that was an interesting tactic, but also leaves you open to maybe taking one midseason, although you're not always known to getting one midseason. We'll see if you make a deal this year or not. In terms of your teams, you did pick 4th, and you're probably pretty happy that Minnesota fell to you at that point. A lot of people have Minnesota going back and being a lot tougher and making that run and finishing what they started. And certainly in the West, a lot of other people, when you have Jokic, you always have a chance to make that run. In terms of your East teams, you did split East and West pretty handily. And I think in the 4th round to get Golden State, I think a lot of us probably have them falling off and without the Splash Brother, but remember, they're pretty rejuvenated and they're really dedicated to trying to save some legs and Kerr to really kind of take over. Sometimes when you have a staple that's been there for that long and you really, really, really like them, like Klay Thompson, you don't challenge your offense as much, or you don't challenge some of your changes, whereas I think Curry and Draymond probably a little more open to that. And again, I think your last couple picks in the East, rolling the dice with 2 teams that could be sellers and trying their best to be as low as possible, or could actually make a run for that 9 or 10 spot. And so if you got a chance to get points late, I think that's the best you can do. So Horst, I think you had a really pretty durable, hopefully, and wide-ranging level of talent this year. So well done. I say this every time I talk about myself, but who doesn't want to hear someone talk about their own fantasy team? I think Luka was a pretty obvious pick for me. I think he's going to have a monster year, and I do love watching him play and his general goofiness. The rest is actually very much not me, and I think I took a long time in my second pick. I actually wanted to pull the trigger on Booker over Durant. I do think the Suns are going to be okay this year, and I think they have a shot of being a top-tier team in the West. Again, they could also not at all. I think that's the nature of the West. And I think one of the 2 are going to be higher up, maybe not even first team, because there's not a lot of room on that, but a second team. And last year Durant was second, and I think Booker was third team. I kind of see more of the same, but now I'm a little bit, Durant might be taking some games off. I just thought post-Olympics, he seemed like someone who's just in cruise control, but in a very dominant way, is just going to be stable for them. And I think in the end, that might end up helping him out. Could be totally wrong. Then I went fishing for categories with Sabonis and Chet. I do think Chet's going to be great. I love Paolo's game, and I don't know what award he might win, most improved maybe, or I actually think if Orlando is as good as I think that they could be in the East, and I do think they can be quite good, he's, I think, ready to take that leap. My next 2, definitely, I don't know why I went so Thunder heavy. I didn't mean to get both of them, but they're both players that I wanted for things like most improved or defensive or, first or second team in that regard. I think that they have a lot of chances. Even someone like Caruso, I know, has been up for things like teammate of the year, and I think if you shift, sometimes that helps you. Paul George, never in a million years I think I would take him, but he was available, and I was like, everyone else I'm taking is a gamble. And then obviously I dipped into the rookie pool here with a very wide, there was a better option, probably a gentleman on the Hawks who is also French. Horst, I thought he might be going there. I just figure someone's got to give the ball to Wemby, and I know it's going to be Chris Paul, but he's not going to play a whole lot. And if Castle can actually play the game that he does, I don't know, maybe he's got a puncher's chance at Rookie of the Year, or he can be the guy that I drop if he sucks. But we'll see. At the time that I drafted him, that actually did not play a game yet, but I just wasn't impressed with how many minutes the other rookies were getting. For my teams, again, very, very much not me. I did get a couple of teams I was really hoping for. The Knicks, I was not. At number 3, I did not think I would take the Knicks, but when it came down to it, I didn't trust any team in the West. And like I said, I think the East is very easy, so I think the Knicks are going to struggle for a bit, but it wouldn't surprise me if they made another run and they got me some playoff points in the end. They're also the kind of team that might want to show off if they get their chemistry back. They might take the midseason very, very seriously. Speaking of that team, I think the Magic and the Lakers are also candidates to do that. I think the Hawks could get me some points because, like I said, I think they're a very one-note team, but that one note probably gets them 8th or 9th in the East, maybe, because it's that weak. Possibly the one that might cost me the whole thing. Now, here's the problem. The Nets, I had the Nets, Trailblazers, and Wizards as my choices, and I think the Trailblazers, I have them as being the worst team in the West. I actually have Brooklyn being the worst team in the East. It's just Washington, I think, is so bad. I don't think Brooklyn's worse than Washington. I think Washington is like all levels bad, and that's why I couldn't pull the trigger on them. But remember, they don't have their first pick next year, so they're not going to care about tanking. They actually might be trying in those games against Brooklyn and Chicago or possibly Toronto, or those are the teams who might be tanking the Trailblazers. So if they play them late in the year, they might get a couple wins, and I might have just given myself the negative because I think Brooklyn, they have not just their pick, they have multiple picks. This would be a great year for them to just tankaroo and see if they could completely rebuild in the draft. And yet, I just could not take the other two. So, will it kick me in the nards? I mean, probably. But here's hoping. Here's hoping not. I don't know if I had to clarify. We're good. We're good. With your 4th pick overall, but your first pick, Shay, of course you went with the individual with Nigerian descent. Like I said, everyone's first couple picks do make a lot of sense. You did get your Laker in Davis, so I think that's probably, it's always nice to have someone on the team you're cheering for. Ant-Man, I think at the spot you got him in, I was really curious about how far he would go. Spoiler, he wouldn't have gone another pick had you taken somebody else, but I did kind of expect him to see him go there. And then you started fishing for some categories. I think Bam was undervalued. I definitely was thinking about taking him earlier. I think he's got Defensive Player of the Year potential, and if Wemby's just got that locked up, he certainly, I think, was on first or second, all defensive team. LaMelo, I like how you kind of took him on a run, and obviously right off the bat, he's looking like a great call. If he's healthy, if he's back, and if he's somewhat motivated, and if Charlotte is not tanking, he could be a leader in assists, and he could be someone who gets on those kind of all tournament brackets, not all tournament, sorry, all NBA brackets. Obviously, Monk, you're going back for some most improved or 6th man, I think, for him, sorry. And then you did take a shot at Rookie of the Year and Reed Shepherd. I think, he's going to be a big scorer. The matter to me about how many minutes. I think he took the best talent available in Lauri Markkanen. And obviously, Cam Thomas, I mean, he just shoots all the time. And he's on a team that doesn't care if he shoots all the time. He might average 35 points a game. So at that point in the draft, hey, man, why not? I don't blame you at all. For your teams, you did snag, I think, most people's, I'm going to guess, team in the West in OKC. And then you took a couple of teams that are very interesting ones, right? Ones with some narratives and some redemption song in their heart in the Grizz and the Bucks. Spurs went definitely a lot earlier than I thought they would, but I think obviously I know you enough to know that you've got your couple teams in your head and you don't mind taking them a little earlier just to make sure you get them. I'd say the same for the Hornets. I can tell by the way you took it, you were pretty excited about it. You did have some people that could make some runs ahead, so obviously you're going all in. And then really you had that very difficult decision as well, Portland or Washington. I would have been really tempted, but I probably would have done the same thing you did, buddy. So good all around. Let's see how it pans out for you. Now, Rennie, you did get last pick here, but you got first pick for the teams, which you were not pumped about. In this particular case, though, I can't imagine a better 1-2 for you. You got a player that you've seen live that I know you love to watch play in Denver, and then you've got your other player that I know you love on the team that you love. So really, this could not have gotten any better for you. And if you actually go your top 5 in terms of an actual basketball game, your team might actually have the best with Booker, James, and Jalen. So you've got the brothers in Celtic arms there to kind of go through. Gobert's always the kind of fishy one where you hope he gets kind of credit. I think Drew's in the same boat. I do love how you went with the Canadian for your Rookie of the Year pick, and then best talent available at the end. I thought solid all the way through. And in fact, if I had to give an award, you might have the team that I probably have the most envy over there. In terms of teams, you got the number one. And I think as much as you don't love the drop to Houston to Cleveland, I mean, realistically, there's only one team that I think all of us have confidence in universally. And if they don't get hurt, how are the Celtics not at least in the Eastern Conference Final, right? They've got that kind of team and pedigree. But let's see. I know it's early days. It's just I think that was a clear number one. Rockets went a lot faster than I thought they would go, but I think you're seeing that all the talent's on that team, and if they make some of those deals and maybe can package some, I think that even helps them out even more. I think at the end, though, I think one of the things you were bummed about is just I don't know if you're super happy about the picks you ended up with. I mean, Clippers, I just would close your eyes, never watch them, and just hope for the best because they're not that much fun. But they still do have a lot of talent. And if Kawhi is going to come back and play at all, and they have Harden, like they're going to get some wins. And they're going to remember they were a team that actually kind of gelled at the end of last year. I know they're without one of those players, but new stadium, new vibe. Let's see. And the Heat are always that throw it in the bucket. Is this going to be the year that Butler's out and they lose their Miami attitude, or are they just going to muscle it up again, get a reasonable seed, and just cause hell in the playoffs? Wizards, I can't talk about it because you didn't pick it. So just like your shrug, you get what you get. So interesting if we, in terms of the pros and the cons about when you pick. I know we've always had the 3 win. I would say, though, I like a lot of my players, but I don't think I'm my favorite. I actually do think Rennie is the favorite in the player picks. If I had to say the team picks, I really don't know. I would have a hard time. I'm a little bit bigger on Chainer's like lower end picks. I think like the Kings and the Pistons and the Pelicans can get him a lot more, but I don't think he has the best 1-2 punch in Dallas and 76ers. But the 1-2 punch doesn't always win it for you. We're not always not lucky, as skillful as Rennie last year when he got the champion and the finalist. So tough for me to kind of say on that. I think Shea's probably got the best 1-2 punch. Actually, no, I take that back. Horst has the best 1-2 punch in the 2 West, but they're not evened out. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. I do think it's pretty even so far, but it's the beginning of the year, man. We're like 3 games in. What do I know? There you have it, crew. Hopefully that was a reminder of who you took. Maybe you've been following religiously, or maybe you've been slightly distracted by that other fantasy leagues, depending on your obsession with football. But that's a reminder of what I thought of what we took, and now we know our situation. However, like I said, we can fast forward a month, and then the next video, it's going to be November, Player of the Month, a conversation about how they're doing that award slightly differently and what I'm kind of adapting that to be, and obviously that can lead to a vote, but I'll save all that one for the next one. Thanks for getting through the recap, and hope you enjoyed.